Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 7 of hashtag Blind Talk. Lucky 7 because we are having ourselves a special guest today. Miss Jessie Evans is most well known in the Blind Talk world for her goodbyes. But today we want to say hello.
Oh, hi.
And of course, I am here with my fellow co-host, TJ. How are you?
Hey, everybody. I'm great.
So today we're going to unpack Miss Jessie's fabulous life and talk about the down and dirty parts of her diagnosis or lack of diagnosis. To follow on from last episode with Madeline, I think it's good to reinforce these things. And then talk about how she's made it to where she is as a fabulous TikTok creator. and all of the fun stuff in between that I'm sure will take us on wild rides, right, TJ?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, Miss Jessie, so where did it all begin?
Well, let's see. I went to a small Christian school growing up, and I remember in 3rd or 4th grade, so I say I was around 8 or 9, not being able to see the board. That's where the vision loss began. I will say, if you don't mind me saying, it's a little bit ironic because the same year my granny died. She died when I was 8. Around that same time after she left is when I started having vision loss. My mom is adopted. My granny had macular degeneration. So this is nowhere near genetic from my granny to me.
Yeah.
It's almost like a little piece of her. And it's an see the world the way she saw it. So with that, I'll say that's where it all began. I was around 8 or 9, couldn't see the board. Teacher listened to me. We went to Walmart. And it took me in, I'm 8 or 9, so mama's, let's see, she's 32, a young thing, because I'm 36 and I'm still a baby, right?
32 is super young.
Right. Baby's over here. So she got her baby at Walmart. And we go in, and that eye doctor tests me. I'm barely able to see that big old E. I'm working out the second line underneath. And that eye doctor said she shouldn't be able to walk across the room with this acuity. But I don't know why it's that way. I think she just wants glasses. Very kind doctor, very patient. I've only had a few that were ugly, I will say. But they were real ugly. And it's... So this one was very kind. Mom and Dad got the placebo glasses, if you will. So I took those to school. Didn't do a lick of good. Came home. I said, Mama, I can't see, and these glasses don't work. That's the only time she got frustrated. And she was like, honey, that's because you can't see. Well.
Right? Who knew? It's so hilarious to me that, we still have been in this evolution for so long and people just think there's magic solutions to things. And,
Yes.
We talk about like mainstream ignorance a lot and everything that we have to deal with as people with low vision. And boy, it's still so prevalent, to be honest with you. It's just, it hasn't really evolved. And, it must have been really frustrating for an 8-year-old little Jessie to not be able to say, hey, this is like real and these don't help. What are we going to do, right?
Right. Oh, it was. And it was more just, I was confused because, I will say, with that being said, she got frustrated with me that one time. I remember it because she was standing in front of our VHS cabinet. And I remember it like it was yesterday. And that was it. After that, when I dug in and was like, no, I really can't see, it was a light flipped on. She's like, this isn't my Jessie. My Jessie doesn't do this for attention. She is not doing this for glasses. So she kept digging in. My mom throughout this experience was my biggest advocate, especially when that light bulb flipped on. So,
I think it's so important to have a champion, right? And
yes.
My mom was a single parent, but I was the oldest grandchild and I was very close with my grandparents. And so like they were big advocates for me. And we went to the blind center in Australia and the same thing, got the assessment done and what it is what it is, and went to the Children's Eye Hospital and so forth. And it's just like those first inklings of your diagnosis really impact in your thoughts and memories of, I guess it shapes you a lot, right? How did it kind of, that experience as an 8-year-old shape you kind of growing up holistically?
Okay, so since it took 10 years to get the diagnosis, I did believe I was a liar. You know, I did grow up with the idea that I was dramatic and I was making it up. My mom never told me I was a liar. My dad never told me I was a liar. It was all through the medical field in my story. And these are professionals. They know what they're talking about. So I was like, well, I'm just too dramatic. So it kind of left me with that scar, even after the diagnosis. To talk about the ugly of it all, I had to do a lot of work, prayer, and just growth to understand that I can trust myself. I am able, I have wisdom in there, and I need to just trust it. And I'm still to this day dealing with that. On the other flip side of things, not having a diagnosis, there were no resources given, right? And I told you I went to a small Christian school. That was not nobody. We didn't have special needs classes.
Right.
It just wasn't a resource they had. And so but I didn't have a diagnosis, so they didn't even know how to help me. Now I had to try to pinpoint things down the way, but that being said, I grew up with the mentality that I can do this, even with resources, even without the support from school or whatever have you. I was always told you can do it. So there's a silver lining to it as well. That's always what I try to do. And a lot of us try to do is like, okay, we recognize that bad thing. Now how are we going to make it good? And that's kind of what it did for me. Problem solving skills are there. I have no problem with change and just life, taking life by the horns and just like, and if I don't like it, I say, bye, Murray.
And that's the one good thing to come out of all this, right?
Yes.
My favorite saying.
Yes.
But it's fine to tell yourself, and this is your personality, right? I love it. It's I can do it. It's going to be okay. But the reality of it is that okay, you can't see real good, and you have to complete stuff with no assistive technology, with no support from that aspect. How did you do that? Like, what was the process? One thing that we haven't talked about on this podcast that I am a big believer in is spelling, right? So when I was younger in high school, I wanted to be a journalist, but I couldn't spell for anything because I couldn't see the words to be able to learn how to spell, right? So I would recognize words by words. And how did that work for you?
Well, let's think back. It's been a while. I've kind of blocked it all.
Right. This is like a therapy session for you. We're going to go back in time. Relive all the horrible moments.
Yeah. I can think of a lot of, I became a master memorizer because I had the support of my parents at home studying. If there were spelling words that I had to memorize or vocab words to memorize, I memorized the devil out of them things. And one thing that I remember in particular was in 6th grade, my sweet teacher, sweet as pie, she thought I had like a focus problem, maybe ADHD, which is still not out of the cards, but that's not why we're here. No diagnosis. I'm just like, something's making sense. Anyway, and on a roll there. But I was failing my vocab quizzes. How she tested was she put the vocab words on the board, and you had to say if it was, B, you wrote B down. She'd read the definition, and you write B down for what. Okay. So we got that. I was failing them because I was like, I can't see the board. Nobody believes me. If I got closer, it still wasn't close enough, as y'all know. So I was like, I'm just going to guess. And I was getting 20s. She gave my mom a resource called Focus Factor, which is a powder you can put in your drink.
Right.
You drinky, all of a sudden focus. Well, at the same time that I started the powder, it was the same time me and my dad had the revelation. Not only do you need to memorize the definitions, we understood that we found out somehow that she was putting the answers up there in the same order as the study sheet. So I recognized, so you see what I'm saying? I would memorize the definitions, the order of the sheet. She'd say with leaves, I say that's number 4, A, B, C, D, done, got 100, focus factor was working in her opinion, and I survived. So that's a little trick. I would just say memorization was a major. Book reports, I had the note cards up there because we had to write note cards, but they were memorized. If I was reading, I was a pretty good reader as far as like my skill to read, because I believe I had some vision before that helped me out with that. I think I was born legally blind, but I just don't remember. But I would read ahead when the class was reading together. That way, if somebody called on me, I was already
Yeah.
familiar, right?
That's the worst thing, I have to tell you. Like, man, I'm sure we were all very fearful of this in school, but when we used to go around the class and read a book and it was your turn and you couldn't see to read, it's not the best thing in the world.
No.
Right.
And my sister did that too for other reasons. She's not legally blind, but she just had like social anxiety. So I'm learning so many people do the same thing I did, just for different reasons,
Yeah.
which is kind of interesting. But yeah, that was definitely something I did, and we just survived.
And
Well,
isn't it, do you find it, do you find it, I guess, interesting and kind of odd that you learned memorization from early on because you had to at that point in time to get through school? But how often do you find yourself now, even though you know what you have, you know the journey you've gone through and how you do life, do you find yourself memorizing things daily now? So that, I mean, because I memorize all sorts of things, the layout of my house, the layout of my furniture, the layout of, how many steps there are going out the patio door versus the front door, just things like that I have to memorize in order to get through daily life. So it's funny how we were learning to do that earlier because we had to be able to fake it, that we were able to see. And then later on, it's like, well, I do that anyway. Like, and I learned it from very early on how to do that. That's so crazy.
I would say I use a lot of the memorization in choir with my church choir. The music, I have magnifiers and things in my church, they are so supportive of me. But basically, I'll just sit and listen to the leader sing it enough to where I've just got it in my head. I don't need a book. Sometimes I might get that out of my face. I don't need that. Just let me praise Jesus without your paperwork, just
right.
But because I've got it memorized, and everybody, and it's I would definitely say I was being prepared for something like that. But with you, memorize your layouts. I have peripherals. I don't have center, so navigating for me is pretty well safe. There's been some times like if something pops out in front of me, I might run into it. But stairs, things like that,
right.
I do pretty good. If I just get my 1 foot off the step, I can make my way down. So I remember I don't have to deal with what you have to deal with the same way.
Gotcha.
We have opportunities. Jesus. So that's
driving. What about driving? When I'm driving with Tammy and my wife and we're going somewhere, she'll get lost easy. She does not have a good sense of direction. And I'll tell her, I'm like, I think you're going the wrong way. And she's like, well, how would you know? I'm like, well, because I look at landmarks and I tell where we are and I memorize where we're going. And I said, so I think you should have gone this way back there. And she's like, oh, okay. And then she will realize that she's gone the wrong way. She's like, how come you're always right about these things? That's lucky, I guess. But it's true, right? We always we memorize where we are. And I was just thinking when you said you have perfect memory, I felt bad for your husband because when anything ever comes up, I have a very good memory as well. And Tim's like, well, how come you always remember everything? Well, that's what we do. We just remember.
Nothing. He hates fighting with me, and he'll tell you he hates fighting with me because I don't forget.
Right.
Nothing.
It's a no-win situation for spouses.
Yeah.
So you got through school somehow. What about high school? How did that go for you?
Same. So just my mom, like I said, will go back to she was my biggest advocate. Not a diagnosis. It was about 17. There were several placebo glasses and things tried, and finally I had an eye doctor tell me I was lying. And just to give some backstory on why my mom handled it the way she did, because she does sometimes get a little judgment from people, and it's not necessary or legitimate. We had an eye doctor say if she doesn't start testing good, we're gonna have to send her to the hospital, test on her, just hook up electrodes, and scared my mom half to death. And she's like, "You're not doing that to my baby. I don't know you. You've been mean this whole entire time. I don't know what you're sending her off to. There's no way." So she just became my champion, like you said, all through it all. And in high school, she would sit, I changed schools, but I think she did this with all my high school teachers. She'd have a pre-meeting before the school year started and say, Jessie can't see. We don't know why. Basically, the best thing that she could come up with was it's like a form of dyslexia, because we were being told it was in my head, and that my head was flipping things, and that it's convinced itself it couldn't see due to trauma, is what she was told. And I was like, the only trauma I've had is from eye doctors, and I couldn't see before then. So what are y'all talking about? But she was like,
Right.
that's the best thing she could come up with. And she said, just don't call on her to read in class. Let her have a note taker or somebody she can get notes from, and y'all just leave her alone and let her do her thing. And most of the teachers would obey that command. Some did not. And for the most part, I could handle them, because I was at that age where I was like, I'm not putting up with your mess. I had one teacher that kept joking about blindness in the classroom. And at that time, it wasn't funny, because I just thought I was, I didn't have a diagnosis. I didn't want to talk about it.
So confronting.
Yeah. And so I would just say, hey, don't do that. He was like, my son jokes about his fake eye all the time. And I just came back with, I'm not your son. Now just stop it.
Yeah.
Right.
There were
Right.
a few situations like that, but for the most part, the thing that sticks in high school the most was sports, because I was just trying to be normal.
Yeah.
So I played sports, and that made for a lot of fun memories and character building.
Oh, yes. Yes, indeed.
Obviously being heavily involved in sport over the years, I feel really like it's tough, because kids don't get an adapted environment when they first try sports with blindness and low vision, right? And so they're in a mainstream environment with no adaptions. Of course, they're mostly going to fail and feel bad about sport and hate doing it, because it brings up bad memories, and you kind of have this cycle that happens really quickly. And so, when I would do sports camps for kids kind of 10 to 18, a lot of them would hate it. And I'd say, hey, what you did before is nothing like what you're going to do now. And here's why you didn't do well. It's not because you suck at sports. It's because the right environment wasn't there, the adaptions weren't there, and the coaching wasn't there, right? And so then oftentimes I find, and we've had many Paralympic people who started out hating sport because they had a bad first impression of it. And so like now when I'm talking to people about playing tennis, as an example, I'm like, it's so night and day. Like if you get on a tennis court with a blind ball and it's audible and it bounces multiple times and you're on a smaller court, it's so much better to just get out and be able to hit the ball. Jessie, you would love blind tennis. You can take all of that angst and frustration out on hitting something as hard as you want. I think you'd love it.
I kind of play it here now, because we're having carpenter bees all over our porch, and I get a tennis racket and I smack the carpenter because I can see them flying in my peripheral. So I'm preparing. I mean, a tennis ball is a little bit bigger than a carpenter bee. I'm telling you, if that gets in my sweet spot, that big old black fuzzy thing, it's gone.
It's gone.
You can sense that.
But I will say, it's definitely my memories. I mostly just remember them as funny. I do remember getting made fun of a little bit by some people who don't matter, and things like that. But they're just, I got the nickname of Swiffer because I couldn't catch the ball very well.
Yeah,
got the ball somehow, and I was dribbling that sucker.
Yeah,
and so I was running for that thing, and then I fell. So then I was crawling for the thing, and I got Swiffer, and that's fun. And then also my blue, because I wore mismatched uniforms. They ran out of gold shorts, so I had to wear the blue shorts with a gold top anytime.
Good times. Isn't remembering school so much fun?
It really is.
Yeah. PTSD chimes in right about now, right?
Right. Exactly.
It's fun. It was funny. For the most part, it was a positive experience. For the most part.
We haven't unpacked TJ's school experience, and obviously she didn't have vision loss at the time. I bet you were like a cheerleader or something, weren't you?
Oh, no, I was not.
No?
No cheerleading for me. Never really wanted to do cheer. No, that's not me.
Okay.
No. I was softball, basketball, and anything that maybe a boy could do, I wanted to do it better. I'm super competitive with things like that, but I'm very much a tomboy. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
Hence my outdoor sports that I do now
Right.
with archery and that sort of thing. It's yeah. So even though I did not have central vision loss in high school, I like I expressed before, I never was able to see in the dark, but didn't realize it wasn't normal. So there were things outside of the school or when we would go on overnight things that I struggled with that looking back now, it's no wonder some people thought that I was clumsy and
Mhm.
didn't, just because of my inability. We went to spend the night in an aquarium type place overnight one time as a field trip. And I just remember laying there in this dark area thinking, I hope I don't have to pee all night
Oh,
because I don't know how to get to the bathroom. I mean, it's just things like that
yeah.
looking back, there were surely signs, but and I did wear glasses, because I did have, distance problems and that sort of stuff. But nowhere, I mean, I had no idea that there were any issues, and I don't really know if I had peripheral vision issues back then pre-diagnosis. I'm sure there were, because it doesn't just happen overnight. It's just that your brain tends to fill in for those things, and so even now I don't feel like I have peripheral vision issues.
I know
I
what you
mean,
mean.
I think, I feel like that I feel like when I look at something, I see everything that a normally sighted, fully sighted person sees. It's not that I have perfect central vision and there's total darkness around it.
So it's
It's not
interesting,
that
obviously,
way.
with both of you,
Mhm.
you have the opposite condition. And so
Yeah.
it's, we always talk about, like, would you rather be blind or deaf, as an example, right? So I think it's interesting to get your two opinions on Stargardt versus
Mm.
retinitis pigmentosa because they're the complete opposite from each other. And I wonder if it's better to have central vision or peripheral vision.
I don't
Thoughts?
know. My thought on that is they're equally as frustrating in their own ways.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
I know from my perspective, having central vision, I'm thankful for the central vision that I have. However, I don't like the part of not being able to see and the uncertainties and the things that I have to do to prepare to go outside of my comfort zone and dropping something on the floor and not being able to find it, all of those things. But not having the central vision part, I can't say it would be better or worse in either way because I don't think either of them or anything that I would prefer. I
I
mean,
know.
if I'm being honest,
Oh,
I
for
would.
sure. Yeah. Jesse, interesting. Like, I want to ask you from
Yeah,
a Starguard's perspective.
sure.
One, you've got the best names now. Star Guardians is like this thing that's happened, so
Yes.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But do you like turn your head a lot to be
Mhm.
able to see things differently? Like, how do you adjust?
Yep, that's exactly right. So, like to talk about what she was saying, for me, the navigation is easier for me than it is uh, TJ because my cane is my scanning ability, which I think you also scan too with your central probably too, putting pieces together. But when I navigate, I can scan and find out what's around me so I don't run into walls or fall down steps. It's tiring. My eye
Mhm.
does think I should start using a cane, especially in not every circumstance, but in busy areas and airports and things. But a lot of scanning. So there's a lot of people think I'm looking. So to see y'all right, like when I do this, the whole thing's disappeared. So in order to see my phone, I need to look over here, and then
Yeah.
in order to see
Then
Tam,
you can.
I need to get up close and then zoom in on your gorgeous face.
Oh,
Oh,
I need.
thank you.
you can tell that you're definitely legally blind if you're looking at me and saying gorgeous.
You are stunning in every way, shape, and form, Marie. But I didn't want to make TJ jealous. So,
Okay. All right.
Right. Exactly. Thank you, Jessie.
well, and so, yeah, there's a lot of scanning, a lot of turning. A lot of people
It
don't
is.
do them. Just a
Yeah.
different type of scanning, I'd say, between the two of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And
And is that something that you're conscious about, like turning your head, and we all have our little things, right, that we're conscious about. Is that something that you're aware of, conscious of?
Especially with kiddos. Adults do it, and I can just say, "Hey, I'm legally blind," and then they kind of pick up and know they don't have to like look behind them every time I'm speaking to them.
Right.
Kid, I will explain. I will be talking to them, and they will continually look behind and not pick up on the fact like I'm talking to you, even if I like touch them on the shoulder and say, "Hey." So for me, it's hard to. I tend to, which is outside my character, shy away from conversations with kids. I love kids; they're great. I used to work with kids. Professionally in a daycare setting, but now I'm kind of shying away from it just because I don't want to make them feel weird.
Yeah.
But kids that know me are great, and they'll say, "Hey Jessie, it's Zoe," or "Hey Jessie, it's Adeline," and that's awesome. But kids that don't know me, I just kind of wait for the right moment to let it all fall into place.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tough having to deal with different social situations. We talk about that a lot, and I think like that's one of the things that I love about our community now is that people can just be themselves, and I think that's really important. Of course, we all still have our masks on, and like do things that we don't want everybody to know about. That's natural in the human form, but I love that we can just share things with each other and be kind of real with each other. And I love that people talk about this podcast in that they can see themselves in different guests and they can relate. That's what it's all about, really, is just finding a place that you feel comfortable in to be able to be yourself more. And I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
I do too. I absolutely love joining everybody, and I haven't been present as much this week, and I have so missed it. And when I think I sent out, I kind of typed up a little something and sent it out to a few people that I know I connect with on a daily basis, and I didn't want them to think that I was just MIA, and gone. And I'm like, listen, this is what's been going on. And I think Jessie was one of the ones. She was like, "Are you kidding me? You're worried about me?"
Yeah.
And like you have other worries right now, but because I've missed everybody in that connection and the feeling like I can say or do anything and then somebody relates to me, because I'm in a world every day, as most of us are. We're in a world that doesn't relate, and it feels isolating. So my people make me feel surrounded by love, and just they pick me up. So I'm so thankful for everyone in this community.
Yes, the best decision I ever made was to start posting. It's to get out there and really meet some people like you.
Yeah, it's so important, I think, to just build that connection with somebody, right? And to feel like you can be yourself with somebody as well. We were talking about summer camps last week with Maddie, and did you ever do anything like that, Jessie? Did you ever connect with your state agency for blindness or do anything like summer camps? Did you know anybody else with blindness or low vision?
No and no. So when I got diagnosed, let's see, I was 19 and I just went on living my best life. I had found the answer I'd looked at for so long. I didn't know what legally blind even meant. And so I just kind of dived into figuring that out. But with the mentality, I didn't grow up knowing about the resources. So I didn't ever think to go look for resources, if that makes sense. There are times where I have a problem and people will like, well, here's the answer to your blind problem. I'm like, why didn't I think of that? My mind just doesn't go there, which is necessarily a good thing. Because I've found so much help in things now later on in life that I'm like, oh, that would have been cool had I had that. So I can't say at first I jumped into that or met anybody or went into any camps. I haven't done O&M training, anything like that. I think because of I just didn't jump there. It just doesn't straight to go find resources.
Do you have resources in your area, though? Are you aware of any resources in your area that were probably there that you just didn't know about? Because I find here where I am, there's not a whole lot. And that's the part that I'm going to start navigating how to change that here. And I'm trying to wrap my head around being able to initiate something around my area, because I just feel like there are people within my small community that suffer from the same thing, that don't have resources or don't know how to navigate those resources. And that's very important for me to do on a personal level and try to give back in a sense, even though I didn't receive a lot of those things younger. but I don't know that I would have known if they were available, and I don't know that they were actually available had I need them, you know?
Yeah, that's very true. I had someone message me on TikTok when I had talked about kind of looking into some mobility cane training, and she so graciously looked up the resources in my area,
Mm-hmm.
called them or dived into that, but they're there. I've also, through the retinal specialist I go to, they have an occupational therapist. She's so sweet, and she's given me some things to look into. And so I know there's something there, but as far as like, I'm like you, where I live out in the sticks. So I'm
Yeah.
not sure about how close they are, and how
Mm-hmm.
they may be. So that's a really good mission. I like that. That's really good.
Yeah, I just feel like there's another group of people around here that are going through the same thing or something similar, that they need to know that those resources are available, and if they're not available, they need to be available. So I'm going to initiate diving more into that. I was so frustrated when my retina specialist referred me to a low vision nonprofit in the Charleston, South Carolina area.
Mm,
And so I went there on his referral, went through all of the things, met this lady, and she told me all of these wonderful resources that were available, just for me to call them, just for them to call me in a few days and tell me, you don't live in Charleston County. We
yeah.
can't offer these to you. I was so heartbroken because I came home so excited that I was going to get some O&M training and I was going to have all of these things available to me and
Mm-hmm.
I could be more involved in things. Just to find out they could not do anything for me because I didn't live in the zip code there.
Right. That's interesting. When we get off this call, I'm going to look back at that message and start calling. You have made me want to dive in. Have,
Good.
We'll be interested in your adventure for sure.
yeah.
Yes.
Keep you updated.
So you got diagnosed at 19 finally.
I did.
How did
That,
that come about?
so, oh, well, there you go. So we were in family counseling for an unrelated reason. I had been to many psychologists and things. Let's see, at 17 was when an eye doctor was telling me, she looked in my eyes and saw the gold flakes or whatever. She's like, there, but I don't know what they are. But from what you're telling me, with everybody saying it's more psychological, there's a thing called functional vision loss, which is the basically hysterical blindness, where you've convinced yourself you can't see. So I went to psychologists and all the things for a couple years, and they did hypnosis, which I just took a really good nap. And I would wake up and not be able to see, which I never really, I don't know that I ever went to sleep, but I just, I'd open my eyes and it'd be like, nope.
Try again.
Really nice stuff. So we had a psychologist office for family, and we were talking about me, and he wanted to put me on more like the heavy psychotic medications that would basically zombify me.
Alter who you are. Mm-hmm.
They're dangerous to take, the benzos. And my mom was like, "No, I'm just not good with this." And, I was 19. I guess I could have consented to do, I don't know how that works, but she's like, "I'm not okay with this. That does not sound like Jessie." So we sat down on the piano bench and she said, "Let's just go one more time." We had a piano in our house. "Let's just go one more time to the retinal specialist. Dr. Wood thinks you should. That's the doctor that said functional vision loss. She really like you to go. I know you're scared." I was like, "Fine, I'll do it." We walk into Dr. Left's office in Atlanta. I sat down. His student doctor came in the room and started doing the peripheral test that I aced, and I failed the chart.
Yep.
Before I even saw Dr. Left or he evaluated me, he came in and said, "Jessie, you're not crazy. You're not a liar. You have Stargardt's disease." And me and my mom looked at each other and were like, "Who is this quack? Who does he think he is coming in here with answers we weren't ready for?"
Right.
"Can you prove it?" He said, "I absolutely can." So he walked me to the room where they do the fluorescein angiography and they take pictures of the leakage in your eyes. And that was my first tear, and it was a tear of joy. I was like,
Yeah.
"God, I have a physical problem with my eyes, and there is nothing they can do about it. Thank you, Jesus.
Right.
It's not my fault." And
And it must have been so
mm,
confronting for you
mm,
to have to go through all these therapies around psychology
yeah,
and mental health.
yeah,
And just, I can't even imagine how that must have made you feel.
yeah, yeah. It made me feel not to put anybody down or belittle anything, but I was just kind of feeling like a different kind of crazy,
Yeah.
and I was
Yeah.
and I use that term lightly because since then I have been diagnosed with like just some anxiety things and depression. So I love therapy, but I was in there for the wrong reason.
Wrong
Right.
reason.
Yeah.
Right, right.
So yeah, it made me feel a little just a different kind of crazy, and just that everything that I had done something wrong to trick my brain, and I was just out of my mind, and it just never made sense because I just felt so normal and level-headed other than this. And I remember when he wanted to talk to me about the heavy medication, I was like, the only thing I'm anxious about right now is the fact that I can't see and nobody can tell me why. I don't
Right.
Right.
know going to fix it.
And
So
nobody was really addressing that issue for a long time with you, were they? I mean, doesn't
no,
seem like it.
no,
Mm-mm.
I would go to the physicals. Like my mom took me to the physicals, I got my, eyes checked, and all the doctors or the pediatrician, like, there's nothing wrong. So it was,
And I mean, we're living in an age where you're in this thing that's probably post 2000, right?
yeah, I got diagnosed in 2009.
Yeah, I mean, like this is recent stuff where you think, man, how can this happen?
Yeah.
And this is what we talked
Mhm.
about last week with Maddie, and saying if you have vision loss and you think that you can't see something, you need to get a second opinion if the first person you go to says, no, that's not real.
Yeah.
Because it happens so much more than we think it does. I was in a meeting this week with the head of the low vision clinic at the Seattle Children's Hospital. And
Mm,
she said, they give out resources, but the clinicians are not trained well to be able to talk to patients about what's actually going on. And it was a real eye opener for me. And I said, hey, I'd love to come in and, do a clinician intake with you and coach your clinicians on how to speak to patients, because what I'm hearing a lot right now from families and just people I know in my community is that diagnoses are not being explained correctly or not being
Right.
able to be talked about in the right ways. And so that creates so much angst for parents and the kids, that they're kind of, well, what's happening, right? Why is all this happening? And
yeah.
so like you're a great case for that, and it's recent. It's not like back in 1970 or back in 1980. This is
Mm-mm.
like 15 years ago,
Yeah.
10 years ago.
It was
Right.
2000. And one thing that I've learned recently, Stargardt's disease with my retinal specialist, because I've asked him about it. I said, how did I go so long undiagnosed? What's your idea? Because I got second, third, fourth, 18th opinions,
Yeah, yeah.
and they were like, unfortunately, this is common in Stargardt's kids. And we are even trained in our residency or whatever school they're going to on how to handle this with kids, especially with Stargardt's.
Right. Yeah, it's
It's,
so,
it's yeah.
I think Stargardt's and RP are the two like eye diseases that aren't very well diagnosed. And it's because I think the variation is so big, right? There's such a big variation in what the condition is as it relates to what the functional vision is, that
Mm,
sometimes it can be really hard to diagnose. And then the other part is, well, what's the vision loss portion, right? Like with retinitis pigmentosa, like when is it going to happen? Nobody knows, right? You could wake up tomorrow and it's all gone, and you could
Mhm.
have it like it is and it stays stable for years and years. And so,
yeah.
like,
Right.
there's so much variance that, like, just having a condition like that is so challenging because you never know what the actuality of the vision function is.
Yeah.
Exactly. And every time I go to see any of my specialists that I see, of course, I have a retina specialist. I also have a cornea specialist because I do have Fuchs corneal dystrophy on top of RP.
Mm,
All of those things. Every time I read their notes, even going back to my first diagnosis, I read the words that say, bony. There were profound bony spicules, were picked up in there and that sort of thing. And I always questioned. I had LASIK surgery around 2005, and nobody had ever said anything, even at that time. Absolutely nothing was said to me about it. So when I was finally diagnosed and I read profound issues are seen when you take pictures and you look at my eyes. It didn't just get that way. It didn't just happen 6 months ago. So I began questioning, how long do you think it was there? It's been there. It's been there. It's just nobody knew what it was. Nobody picked it up. And so we're not going to mention a thing about it because we don't know what it is.
Right.
And I really wasn't having profound issues, not enough to speak up about it, other than not being able to see in the dark, but didn't know nobody could see in the dark. I thought it was normal. You know what I mean? So I became very frustrated about that aspect too. Not that it would change anything, but maybe so that I was not so caught off guard just by going in for a regular eye exam to be told, you have RP and you've got it in a big way, just
it's disturbing, really. Like
it is.
in 2022, I had a minor stroke and lost vision for pretty much 6 months, and it was very blurry. And I went to an eye specialist, and I said, "Hey, like I had this stroke, and I want to know if there's a chance that my vision can come back, or if it's just going to be permanently like this." And he's like, "Well, I think you actually have albinism because you have pretty fair skin." And so I'm like, "I definitely don't have albinism." And I said, "I've got scarring of my corneas and I had cataracts removed." And he's like, "Well, we should look into this gene therapy thing." And I'm like, "Well, I don't think you really know what you're talking about. So I'm going to go see somebody else."
Exactly.
And it's just like, you think that these people are trained, but it's like anything, right? Is like you can go and see a professional and they're really good, and you can go and see a professional and they're not so good. And
Right.
so you have to use your better judgment as well to question, as TJ said,
Mm-hmm.
what you're being diagnosed with, what they're telling you. Like you said, Jessie, prove it to me, right? How do you know that this is the case? These are really important things to be able to talk to your eye specialist about. And if you're not convinced about what they're saying to you and it doesn't match up with what you're seeing and feeling, then you need to go see somebody else.
And I say my mom is facing this right now because she was diagnosed with age-related macular degeneration a few years ago, and something wasn't sitting well. And she wouldn't mind me saying this. She's already told me. She went to the retinal specialist that I went to however many years ago, 17 years ago. He sat down with her and he said, "Judy, you have Stargardt's disease." And she was like, "What are you talking about? I'm 60." And he was like, "I'm just telling you, this is what I see. These patterns are Stargardt's." And it has come where it's diagnosed later in life. She told him who she was and told him my story. And he said he remembered me and he wanted her to go to the genetic testing immediately at Emory just as soon as she could. And they're still on that journey to confirm Stargardt's. But both retinal specialists that she's seen, when they look in her eye, they're like, "That looks like Stargardt's." Whereas her everyday eye doctor thought it was just AMD. And it's very important to know the difference.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
Not to say anything ill of her, but I was just proud of my mom that she was like, something's not sitting well. So she did it on.
That's awesome. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you have to be your own advocate, in a lot, because after my diagnosis, I was told there's nothing that's being done that didn't sit right with me. And I wanted to know what I needed to do to arm myself with knowledge and advocate for myself when things do become available. I did do genetic testing to see if we could pinpoint the mutation, just in case something came along for my specific mutation, which has. But, at any rate, if I had gone for other opinions and I wanted to have the knowledge to say, that's not right, or, this doesn't sit well with me, and this is not what I've been told otherwise, and also talking with other people and their experiences with it. I've talked with other people because when I was first diagnosed, they didn't do that ERG, where they test your night vision and stuff like that. I'm like, well, maybe somebody needs to do that for me, So my next retina specialist, I'm like, I've not had this done. I've never had the fluorescent angiography done, like, how do you know for sure this is what we have, So it's important to educate yourself and arm yourself and not be afraid to speak up and say, I don't know about that.
Yes, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
So you got diagnosed. You
Mm-hmm.
felt the way you felt.
But when
Um,
I was
19 years old. What's next for Jessie Evans?
19 years old, it was the best, one of the best day of my life when I got diagnosed with Stargardt disease. I just continued living. I called everybody and told them, and they were so happy for me. I have a friend that I've had since I was 11 through it with me. She was like, I always knew there was something. She never really bought into the whole Jesse's making it up. She just did. I just didn't know what extent it was, but it all makes sense. And I just continued with college. I did not finish just by choice. I decided to go in a different path. And my dream all the time growing up was to I would love to get married and become a mother. And I would love to be able to stay at home with my kids. And that decision was made for me um, when it came down to it. But I had met my husband. We got married in 2014. He knew of my eyes the whole time. He was the perfect man for me. Um, he sees the blindness as a strength. He says he's learned a lot of not to take for granted. And he helped me fulfill my dream of becoming a mother. I have two beautiful boys who see very well. And I'm living my dream, Murray. That was my dream for me. It's very simple and I love it. And I'd choose it again. I would choose this life again. And I would say I was not scared to become a parent at all. It never crossed my mind that I shouldn't. I know, and when I was pregnant with my firstborn, I had some other people that I've met through social media who have Stargardts who asked me about that. Like, are you scared? And I was like, well, I wasn't until now. Why
Right.
she yawns? So I wasn't scared before. I was more scared afterwards. There's a lot of insecurities there, but through the grace of God, we worked them out. And I would say my kids know what I see better than anybody else. They understand what
Mm-hmm.
better than anybody else.
There's a
Mm-hmm.
video that you did maybe a month or so ago where um, you were talking about your son saying that someone wasn't very nice, and like I think we gain strength and better understanding. My sister once told me, she said, I never really understood about your blindness, but you have something that's different about you where you have this sensitivity to you. And she said, I always really appreciated that about you. And I felt, she said, I felt like I got some of that from you and being with you. And we're really close, and so I see that a lot with your son in an instance where you showed a video of him walking around with a cane the other day, and it's like they care. They
Mm-hmm.
care. It's
They do.
very obvious that they care
Mm-hmm.
about you
Mm-hmm.
and about blindness and about people being nice to each other. And of course, kids fight all the time, and there's that stuff too. But it balances out. Like you can tell that you've done a very good job in rising.
Well, thank you. I will take that, and I will.
Exactly.
I will. I am very proud of those kids. And the one you saw with the cane, he's my oldest. He's very protective of me. And if he thinks that somebody is rude to me, because the other day he felt like somebody was rude, and I said, "Why do you think that?" This was a different instance, and he was like, "They just think you can't do anything because you're blind." Like he's like, "Why do they think that? That's dumb of them." Like he's
Mm-hmm.
like, how silly of them to think that of you. And I was like, you know what, boy, you keep that up. And then my other son, he's younger, and he's just willing to accommodate me. Like I'll say, where are you? And he'll say, I'm over here. Yes. But then he'll jump and move and say, do you see me too over here on this? And try to describe something bigger than him. And he's only,
Oh,
um, so yeah, I'm very
that's
proud.
that's
Those kids
amazing.
will grow up really well positioned in life, and I think it's important to,
Mm-hmm.
I think people who have had something to do with people with disability have a better perspective on life because they understand that not everything is just like a cookie cutter model, right? You just don't go through life, and we all have challenges. I think there's something like a statistic that says 80% of people will have a form of disability in their lives. And we don't see it, maybe when we're younger. But I think the tolerance and the understanding that comes with being around people that have any kind of disability or any kind of thing going on, gives you a better perspective about things.
Absolutely.
I agree. I agree. And it's funny because we're always, Mama Bear comes out in you as well as myself when it comes to my kids. You can toy with a lot of things in my life, but my child is not one of them. So Mama Bear will come out for me. But I noticed the opposite role occurs when it's me.
Mm-hmm.
She will go to bat for me in a second. And if you try to doubt me, she will quickly put you in your place and let you know. And my child is very reserved, not a girl of many words, but when it comes out, you listen because she's speaking and she will tell you quick, fast, and in a hurry. This woman can do exactly what you can do, and do not underestimate her. And I love that about her because she has just watched me go through all the things and get where I am today. And she doesn't have any problem with putting people in their place when it comes to them doubting me. And she doesn't try to coddle me. She doesn't try to, grab on me to help me places, because she's of the age now where we travel together and things like that. And navigating an airport with her is so much fun because she's just like, you do your thing and I'm just going, I'm along for the ride, Mama.
It's great though. You talked about the red tape before,
Yeah.
TJ, and just counties and stuff like that. Tammy and I unfortunately weren't able to have kids, but we have 2 fur babies now, which are precious. But we used to do foster care, and we've been around kids our whole lives with blindness and goalball and tennis and all this stuff, right? But there was a girl, a 9-year-old girl in Washington State that was completely blind, that we were really wanting to adopt. And we got told that we weren't able to adopt this girl because we lived in a different county and they had a different person. And I said, this girl is in like an orphanage and she would not have better parents than us who actually understood her case, and they would not do it. And it makes me really frustrated, that things like that exist where people just don't see the bigger picture. And
Right.
I think we come across this a lot in our lives, dealing with our blindness and our low vision, where it's the frustrating thing is people just don't get something that's actually really simple to change or do. And that's one thing that I really think advocacy is really important about. We'll have Alison on next week, and also really looking forward to talking with Alison. And right now, I think disability rights is such a big thing. And as you guys talk about, you live in a regional area that isn't consistent with a lot of services. What are some of the things that you think that you'd like to do, or be able to do more of with
Just
better assistance or better things? What are the most frustrating things in your day to day?
Ooh, you take it away, TJ. I'd have to give that some thought.
Well, for me, I think that in my general area, I would like to see more resources offered within the school system for the children. For me, I'm quite capable of navigating this for myself and finding those resources available for me. But I find that if there are children that are affected with this, they don't have the voice that I have. They don't have the knowledge that I have to be able to do it. They rely on either a parental guidance or, some sort of family guidance from someone. And some kids, honestly, around in this area do not have that at all. So I would like to see more of. I've always said if it were up to me in my healthcare career out here in Hobunk, South Carolina, I would love to have a place where I help to educate and navigate those avenues to make things available for people, because I have run into so many people who don't know how to work out insurance claims or how to get patient assistance for medications, things like that. So as far as my community, I know there has to be vision impaired children around me. I don't see them, but they are here. And
Yeah.
and I know that there are not, I had trouble finding resources for adults. I can't imagine what it's like to have a child going through that. So I want to personally educate myself more on what's available here for that specific age group of children. And I would love to be available for the parents to help guide them and to have things for these kids to be able to do and surround themselves with people like I have done on the TikTok community, to where
Mm-hmm.
they don't feel so isolated, because I, as an adult, felt very isolated for a long time. And it's hard enough being a child growing up, the peer pressures, the acceptance, the social medias, all the things. But to have a vision impairment and not have anybody else who can relate to you, that has to be very difficult. So I think that's very much lacking in my community, and I wish that I could do more to ensure that that we have something like that here.
Yeah, I would agree to that. I'm glad I let you go first because that gave me ideas. I'll leave a plan because I don't know. I explained before, my mind doesn't go to where are the resources at. I'm just going to solve it myself. Okay.
Right.
Well, yeah.
And that's not necessarily a great thing. It's not a terrible thing either. But with that being said, I think a lot of what you talked about resonates, because a lot of the problem with low vision or anybody who can't drive is the isolation. And I feel like we are each other's best resource. It's not really like, for me, it's going to be the community, the blind community, coming together and creating these opportunities for us to, like you're saying, going out and creating the opportunities for us to talk to each other and educate each other. Because a lot of the things that I've learned have been from you or other, blind talk community members, or just, social media as a whole, informing each other. So I can't think of maybe like a government resource that I would like to see better, because I find that we're each other's best resource.
Yeah,
we are.
Really true.
We are. Yes.
When I came back to America in 2023 from living in Sydney, my friend who I used to coach in goalball at the high school for the blind in Washington State, he's now the manager of what they call pre-ETS, which is pre-employment transition. So teenagers, basically 14 to 22. He said, we've got vendors, but we don't have vendors with lived experience. He said, you would be a great person to be able to start your business and work for us. So that was great, because Tammy's parents weren't doing so well, and we decided to move back. And, starting my own business was a real adventure for me. But I have to say, it's so rewarding now to be able to give back to that community and to work with teenagers and families. And now I'm working with 0 to 13-year-olds as well, and their families. And, you just see the gaps, and you can actually start to make a difference. And so vendors working for state vocational rehabilitation agencies, it's a win-win, because what needs to happen probably better than the government does. And you can start to build programs and resources for these families and these kids that are going to make a real impact. And I always like debating, right? So when I was in high school, I joined my high school debating team because my girlfriend was on the debating team and I wanted to spend more time with her. So I joined the debating team, and I loved it. She left the debating club and we won the state championships 2 years in a row. So it was like this thing that enhanced me to be able to communicate better, right? But now I love getting kids to be able to debate topics. One, because they do the research and they understand what the topic is. But two, they stand up, they have to present, they have to, know what they're talking about, and advocacy and self-confidence and all these things. And so one of the government agents came to my workshop in Seattle a couple of weeks back, and she watched the debate that happened, and we were doing a workshop about AI and talking about AI in school. And she said, Murray, I've been working with you for 3 years now. And she said, I know who has worked with you, because when they get up and talk, they actually speak with confidence and self-belief. And I said, that's the best compliment that you can give me, because that's what I'm here to do, is to empower them, right? So I think Blind Talk, and why I wanted to start this podcast is because the same thing, right? There's so many adults out there who have lived in the isolation of their blindness and their low vision for so long that
Mm-hmm.
we need to talk more about it. We need to say, you aren't alone. You know, you will relate to stories because you've been through it. And here's
Right.
how other people have overcome that and done things that will inspire you or, you know, motivate you to be able to go and do your next thing. And that's what I love about
Mm-hmm.
this podcast. And that's what I love about our community is you just
Yeah.
meet these genuine people who are like salt of the earth and caring, and, you know, it makes such a difference to everybody.
Really
Right. I agree. Mm-hmm.
I'm taking notes.
All right, good job. I expect lots of bar videos in the future because of this.
They're really notes with perfect.
Nice. So you touched on a topic that I'm quite interested in talking about, and I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I have to ask you about it. You did share a video of you driving,
Ah,
and you had monocular glasses on, and I was interested to ask you about this. So if you feel happy to talk about it,
go
please
ahead.
do. If you don't, please tell me to shut up.
Go ahead.
But with Stargards, how does monocular driving work?
It didn't.
Yeah, okay.
So I think that was part of my problem is when I got diagnosed, that was the resource I was given was
Right.
this bioptic lens.
Yeah.
Can't think. I mean, that's the first thing I remember, and because that's what everybody wants is their independence. I was 19, so I was never comfortable with driving, but I had this mentality like, don't be a quitter, don't give
Right.
up. You can do this. It's
Yep.
all. So I didn't trust my instinct of you probably shouldn't do this. My mom fought the doctor and was like, "What are you thinking?" And the doctor said she's perfectly safe because how that worked was my visual acuity was 2200.
Okay.
So 200 feet,
Yep.
somebody else could see it. I could see it 20 feet, legally blind. But through the little bioptic thing that, if anybody doesn't know, it looks like kind of like your dental hygienist has on their glasses or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I could see 20/60 ish.
Yep.
And in the state of Georgia, you need to be able to see 20/60 to drive.
Right.
So I could see 20/60 technically through a little tiny hole.
Okay.
Doesn't make any sense, does it? But that's what I was given. So it didn't work. We owned a lot of guardrails. I hit a UPS truck. I hit a lot of curbs. And it is it's funny when I talk about it. It's fun to talk about now, but in the moment, my mom
Yeah, scary, right?
scared out of their mind, but
Yeah.
they couldn't tell me not to do it because little Jessie was going to be like, yeah, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it more. And I would start taking myself on road trips.
Right.
So they had to let it all happen. And it was when I was pregnant with my firstborn son. I was on my way to work, and I hit somebody because I didn't see their taillights, and there was no other explanation. So I was, talking to the police officer, and I was like, I'm legally blind. And it was on my license, bioptic driver.
Right.
Over several times for suspicion of DUI because I was going too slow.
Right.
And I would just tell them my bioptic driver, and they just let me on my way. And what were they going to do? That's
right.
all. Problem was, and this was touched on by, I think, Mandy. I'm not sure. Might have been somebody else talking about following up with your retinal specialists. I got those glasses in 2009, 2010. I was told my eye disease was going to stabilize around that time. So, I was like, well, then I'm good.
Yeah.
I didn't follow up and go, and I probably would have had my license taken from me if I had, but hindsight 2020.
Yeah.
Shout out to Talker. Hindsight 2020. But yeah, I learned the hard way that I needed to stop telling myself that if you don't do this, you're a quitter. Stop putting pressure on myself and really take my safety and other people's safety into account. So that's kind of how it unfolded. And I called my husband. I said, I'm done. My father-in-law had just retired, and he drove me to work for the next 3 weeks. And then I became a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah. Yeah. Some things are meant to happen, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's true. And, we put off and put off and put off because it does mean so much to lose that independence of being able to do something yourself, that, the safety aspect has to come in at the end. And we've all, I think, as we talk about our vision loss, if we have driven, there's instances where you think, okay, enough's enough, right? I should stop.
It was a real.
Yeah. And it's that moment that we all have. But, it's important to talk about like things happen for a reason, right? And you got to then stay at home and be a mother and raise your kids and do the things that you really always wanted to do anyway.
And I
And
love it.
that's important to remember, right? There's always something else. When something gets taken away, you need to find your new thing about what is going to replace that and what you're going to do and what your passion is. I talk to kids all the time about finding what you're curious about, asking questions, looking at things. What do you really care about? And then follow that up, right? And try and make a career from it. Try and do something that you actually enjoy. Like I'm very fortunate that I get to do something that I love to do every day. Yeah, and that's important for anybody. So I think we sometimes lose sight of that. What do you love to do, and why aren't you doing that thing, right?
Yeah.
So you stay at home with your kids.
Were you about to say my mutts?
No, I was going to say your mother, but then I realized that's not true. But what about your church life? I know that's very important to you as well, and I think faith is something that's certainly dear to me. That I have had things in my life that really, at times, I think, why is this happening? Like you get down on yourself. There's depression, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But now, really, in the last since I had my stroke, I just give it up, right? And I say whatever's meant to happen is actually just meant to happen, right? Things happen for a reason, and at the time we think, why is this happening to me, right? What am I going to do? How am I going to survive? And then somehow it magically happens, right? But I think now, like, I walk in faith and I just give it up, right? Whatever I'm meant to do, wherever I'm meant to be, however I'm meant to teach someone, or whatever I come into contact with, you guys, it all happens for a reason, right? And so tell me about your walk with faith.
Oh, man. So a story pops out in my mind every time somebody asks. So when I was 15 or 16, I was sitting on my bed. I gave my life to Jesus when I was 8 years old. That's when I was like, had that childlike faith and was like, okay, I'm yours. Now what? Started my vision after that. And I was sitting on my bed. I was about 15 years old, and I was just angry that I wasn't normal. I don't know if I was angry at God or just angry at the situation, but I was crying and begging God, just make me normal. Like, why am I so weird? And why can't I see? They're telling me I can see, but I can't. What is the problem with me? And I had this poster of all the names of Jesus in the Bible. And, there's lots of them. And I'm no theologian, but there's a lot of them. And so they're all like, that big. Couldn't see them. I was sitting on my bed. It was probably like 10 feet away or something. And I would just pray, and open my eyes, still couldn't see him. And I'd pray, open my eyes, still couldn't see him. And I was like, well, where are you? And I remember this instance of just peace, almost like a physical hug, and was like, it's going to be okay. And that was 4 years I was diagnosed, but I just remember that peace. I know you felt it, and in your life too. And I was like, okay. Then I got diagnosed, and that was the aha moment of, okay, I went through that for a reason. Now I see the reason. My faith was strengthened through it. I was able to find peace in the storm, and I was able to walk by faith, right? And not by sight, in a physical and spiritual sense, because I didn't have my answers, but I could still trust in him. And that's a miracle in itself. So that was my healing. A lot of people will challenge that and be like, well, why aren't you healed? Aren't you a good Christian? And I'm like, whoa. My idea of healing are two different things.
Right.
What a miracle it is for somebody to be able to go through this life with whatever their handicap may be or problem and still have faith that Jesus, right? So that's what my faith looks like. And it's ever changing and ever growing. And I'm not saying I never doubt, but that experience I had wasn't a waste of time. It wasn't a waste of time. And that's really molded. And I grew up in a strict environment as well. And so in my later 20s, in my early 20s, I had to revisit who God was for me. And really made himself real in other ways in my life that have nothing to do with my eyes, that are not necessarily all my story to tell, but he did make himself real to me in big, big ways that are undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what my faith walks look like.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. It's sometimes challenging to talk about what we believe and how we believe, but it's important to know that things we hear it all the time, right? Is like, why is this happening to me? Like,
Mhm.
especially in later in life, when people lose their vision later in life, it's so much more impactful, I think, than growing up with it and understanding it from a younger age. But that adjustment's tough, right? And there's a creator on TikTok that I won't name, but that person is, I think, has really struggled. I've seen their videos for a number of years now, and they talk about a whole bunch of different things, and it's very clear that they just haven't come to terms with it yet. And they talk about faith sometimes, and I think it's challenging, right? It challenges you on a consistent basis to believe that there is a reason why things happen. And I just hope that people can come to terms somehow with what they're dealing with, because it's tough. Life is tough enough, really, and it's constant, right? It's unrelenting. Sometimes we think, okay, we're getting ahead of stuff, we're coming, and then something else happens to take you away from all of that. And so I think it's important to just understand that you can't always control what happens.
Almost never.
You can't. And there's even when you think you have a grasp on it and you think that you are rock solid and you've overcome the things that you used to think about coming to terms with it and that sort of thing. My faith has been tested time and time and time again in my lifetime. And it always seems to go back to, I get angry at certain things, and then when that happens, I tend to not trust in my faith. And it's almost like each time he's going to do something more profound in my life that's like, all right, you still don't trust me? Let me show you.
Yeah.
You still don't, okay, you still don't trust me? Well, let me show you. And so for me, that journey has been full of, he's been showing me, and finally I had to surrender and say, okay, I got it now. You don't have to show me anything else.
Yeah.
I got it.
Right. There's some revelations, and then there's some revelations, right?
Exactly. So it's a process. It doesn't happen overnight. None of that happens overnight. And oh, my mercy. That's probably a whole nother episode.
It sure is. We could unpack that for a long time, for sure.
Hey.
Maybe that can be a multi-part episode, I think.
My goodness gracious.
But the old saying, it's tough, right? Like, we get thrown curveballs all the time, and we're just human, right? And so, to what your points were, is you're going to feel that emotion, right? You are going to question.
Yes.
You are going to be angry, and you're going to be sad, and you're going to be all these things. But it's how you can come back to the middle and I guess reevaluate where you're at. That's important. And again, now I think it's important to remember that you're not alone. That you do have people who, even if you've never physically been around another blind person in your life, now we have a community that really comes together very well and supports each other really well. And so never be ashamed to reach out to somebody if you're struggling, right? If you're having a bad day and you're questioning things and you want someone to talk to, there's going to be someone to talk to now.
Always. And I had this conversation with my son yesterday, actually. He's very hard on himself, and he'd get angry and smack something against our head. And I was like, whoa, we don't hurt ourselves when we're angry. And so this can go way outside even, our community. And that's what I wanted to talk about the other day with a video. It's like, yes, I am legally blind and I relate mostly to blind people, but I want to relate to people who have felt untrusted, who have felt alone, and who, no matter what the circumstance, if you're disabled or not disabled, I'm sure we've all felt that way. And I want to find those people, and I want to be to so many different types of people.
Right. Yeah.
Similar, because I had a conversation with somebody in college who was told the same thing. You're lying, given this line of bull, and she ended up having a more serious disease than anywhere near. The doctors were accusing her of doing things she wasn't doing.
Yeah.
And I want to find everybody.
Yeah.
You
So
see
cool.
it.
But, like, I think one thing that I really appreciate you, Jess, is that you can laugh at it as well, right? You can poke fun of it. And I think, like, we talk seriously, and we've talked pretty seriously on this podcast today about all of the challenges. But one thing that's always refreshing to me, if I'm having a bad day or I'm feeling down or I have hip surgery, I'm in bed for 2 weeks, I'll look at your video and I'll just laugh, right? And I'll smile. And they're the things that really make my day, and I've got a good, I love a good sense of humor, and I love to laugh and enjoy life, and it's good to see creators like you who I can just smile about, right? And it makes you feel good to watch your videos. So
I agree. I love it too.
thank you for your content, my friend.
Yes, thank you.
Happy. Thank you for saying that.
How did you come about being a TikToker?
Oh, that's funny.
It is. Uh-huh.
Well, it had been laid on my heart to share my story long time ago, back before, back when I was diagnosed. Like, okay, I wrote this story. Now you're going to go share it. And now you're going to be the voice and give it, and I just was like, no, I'm not good enough. So finally last year, I had actually, before TikTok was called TikTok, I had those apps before they were even called TikTok, and was doing just funny things on that, but nothing about blindness. But last year I had just happened to be like, well, okay, let's check it out again. And I came across someone's channel who was talking about Blindness Awareness Month. And they were actually posting every day before Blindness Awareness Month. They did a different take on it. And I was like, well, that's interesting. What a perfect time to post something. So October 1st of last year is when I posted my first video. And I was so encouraged just by random people that I found. I had found another Stargardt disease person, his name, Blurry Dad Diaries.
Yes.
Had talked. He's like, what are you waiting for? Let's go. And he was a big encourager for me. And then a random person who I found just on lives that go, when you go scroll through and you find somebody on a live, she just did like fun lives. And I just said, sorry for the typos, I'm legally blind. And we connected on that level. I actually met a couple other legally blind people in her chat, and was telling, opening up about how, like, I'd love to do videos, but I'm not sure. And her chat was flooded with, Jessie, do it, we'll support you. And they have. And these are people outside of the blind community. Yeah. So that's really encouraged me. Her name is Shop with Liz now, I think, because she does TikTok Shop, just to give her a little shout out. But she's a huge reason and encouragement, because it was a stranger who said, you should do it. People in my life who said, do it. What do you think? And I'm like, oh, you just love me. But when it's somebody who you don't know, who's just telling you to do it because they find you interesting, that flip the switch, I guess.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that somebody flipped the switch for you to do that.
Me too. Otherwise, we'd never hear, bye.
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 That came from that's how me and my best friend get off the phone, because I'm not like the most sappiest of people. Yeah. And she doesn't like I love you. So we'll be like, okay, gotta go. Bye. And
I love it. I love it.
I do too.
What content do you guys like? It's interesting. Obviously, we talk about this stuff, but like, what kind of content do you guys relate to and love to see?
Go ahead, TJ.
I love anybody who's out sharing their nature hikes and walks or places they've gone. I recently stumbled upon a page where this guy uses these drones and does landscaping videos of just all these beautiful areas. And I think they are amazing. I could sit there forever and watch them. And then this one little boy, he is sharing his photography, and it's all just different wildlife things that he'll catch. And I love to see that, because that's not something I always get to see. And like recently there's a large crane bird that comes out here and perches down on our dock, and I know that has to be absolutely beautiful, but from here I can't make out the details and stuff like that. So if somebody were to take a really good picture, more so than my cell phone here, and be able to show the details of what he looks like, is just amazing for me, right? So those type of things I love to see. I love when people go walking in in the mountains or on different trails and hikes, and they run across waterfalls, or they, all those kind of things. I love that sort of thing. So I'm kind of drawn to that on top of the content that everyone in my blind talk community seems to post. They it's a variety of different things, and I love that too. Like, I want to see all your things. I want to see everything you do. I want to see how you live, what you do, what your animals look like, what your, all those things. So I enjoy every bit of those. But yeah, so that's my algorithm usually.
I like your algorithm. Mine's a lot of music. I get a lot of singing, a lot of comedy sketches and comedians come across.
Yeah, I get those too. Yeah.
But I love
Jessie, you have a great voice. I have to tell you, like some of the things that you sing, I'm like, wow, you're pretty impressive.
That's very new to say. I have fun.
Yeah.
And it says a joyful noise, so there's happy behind it. And if somebody can bear to listen to it, I am a happy camper. So thank you.
Your voice is beautiful.
Yeah, you have a very, very sweet voice.
Well, thank you. Got it. My mama sings 10 times better than me, so maybe she'll get on here and do that.
I was going to say, maybe we should have a performance.
Duet. Come on.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I see a lot of that kind of stuff, uplifting. And I like TJ. I like to see the blind talk videos, and then especially the ones that show just the more to their life, just how they're blind and how they're just doing things, living life,
TJ, to your point, I always wanted to go to Yellowstone. It was like one of my bucket list things. And 2 years ago, we went. My sister come over from Australia, and took her and our niece, and just had an amazing time. We drove into the park, and there's like this buffalo that walks straight up to the car and is like literally right next to the car, and it's like this massive buffalo. Like, wow, this is amazing. And just to go through that park was amazing, and to see Old Faithful blow, and how that works. And I was like, man, it's so good. We went to this, I was hoping to see a bear, because I'd never seen a bear in real. I was on a train in New York once, and in the upper Scranton part, and there was a black bear running through the woods that I did see, but not been close. And they had the big grizzly bears in the reserve there, and so went and saw them. It was amazing. Just so much fun to go and see Yellowstone. Such an amazing place.
Definitely. And we go to Montana every year on vacation, and where we go, where we stay is only about 45 minutes from Yellowstone, and we've not gone yet. And last year we fished in an area that you could see the west part of the mountains of Yellowstone from where we were on this lake. And we've not taken the time to go over there to do that. But this time we took a couple of extra days that we're going to be there. And I refuse to go back to that state and not go in the park. It will not happen.
You definitely have to go to the park. It's so amazing, just the geysers and the different things that you can see. It's just beautiful there.
Right.
That's my husband's dream trip, is Yellowstone in Montana.
Yeah. Such a peaceful place. It's beautiful.
Yes. Spiritual.
Comments,
very, very
ladies?
spiritual.
TJ,
final comments, final thoughts. I absolutely love, Jessie, all of your things, and I think that you are very insightful to our community with your things. You bring a different perspective. I think that each of us are navigating a journey in very different ways, but we have one common ground. And you always make me feel like, even though we have opposite diseases, we still have very much a common ground to stand on and to walk on. And I feel comfortable knowing that you are in my corner. So I hope that this community that watches these podcasts and see all the different people that we have coming on here, and that we talk about, this community is so big and so welcoming, and it's almost like a big old hug. And I hope that you find that with each of us.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Thank you, Jessie.
Hi.
How about you, Jessie? Final thoughts, comments?
Ditto to all of that. I'm just so blessed to, like you said, have found this community and to jump on and be a part of it. I think we all just kind of come together and support each other in such a beautiful way. I'm honored to be in your corner, Miss TJ and Mr. Murray. Honored, considered in your corner. And to really, y'all, I just love what both of y'all are doing with this. I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful for the opportunity to come on here and share a little piece of my life and connect with everybody. And I just want to say thank you for letting me have this time with y'all. It's been a blast.
Yes.
Well, I've really enjoyed it. I think to follow on TJ's comments, Jessie, you're very authentic, and that's one thing that I really love about you is that you are who you are, and you're unapologetic about that, and that's fantastic. And I really love just it's always like from the heart how you speak and what you say, and so I really love that authenticity about you, and it comes across really plain and clear. So I love your comment, love your content, love your comments, love your singing. One thing I don't love though is that you beat me at fantasy baseball. That's not. That's not appropriate. Okay.
Yeah, Miss, I don't know baseball.
Yeah, what's going on here? Have you got a ring-in professional baseballer down there in Atlanta? You got a Brave on task that's doing your lineups for you? What's going on?
I haven't even touched it.
Come on, girl.
I have not even touched it.
I'd love to believe you, but my ego is not letting me do that. So definitely a lot of fun, though.
Now.
I was impressed. Well, we're out of time, unfortunately, but hey, we hope that everybody who's listening will comment and do their own debrief videos. I always love the debrief videos that people do. So take the podcast apart and tell us your favorite things and tell us what you'd like more of. As I said, we've got Allison up next weekend. That'll be an adventure. She has a lot of energy, that girl. And she's just launched her new arena, disability advocacy arena, the Power Arena. So we'll talk about that and just talk about her background as a lawyer and all the things that she's done. So we just have so many amazing people in our community, and it's great to be able to shine a light on all of those people. So from the ladies and myself, we bid you adieu and hope that you have a fantastic week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.